Welcome to the Route Consultant Weekly Webinar. If you haven't been here, if you've never met us, my name is Josh Gregory. I lead our education team here at Route Consultant. And if you've never heard of Route Consultant, which is totally possible, our team ran hundreds of routes across the country in both P&D and line haul. And today, really, our focus is twofold. So one, if you are a new investor trying to get into the space, we want to help you understand what it is and kind of help you go in eyes wide open so that you can make the right investment, make the right decision here. And on the other side, if you're a current contractor, we want this to continue to be a place and a space where you can come and learn about the things that are affecting the industry today, ask questions, and find ways for us all to be successful together. And that will always be the goal here at Route Consultant. And for anyone who's here every week, welcome back. And again, like I said, whether you're brand new or a contractor, this will continue to be a place for everyone to come together to learn and ask questions. Now, before I go too much farther, I do have a quick disclaimer to read, as I do every week. So Route Consultant is not endorsed by and is not recommended by Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Route Consultant is not sponsored by, is not approved by, is not associated with, and has no connection whatsoever with Federal Express Corporation, FedEx Ground, or Amazon. Now that that's out of the way, general flow for the day, if you've never been here, we will go through some content, some updates, and then I'll go over some upcoming events and listings that we've had go live this week. And then we will have a peer Q&A. So at any point while I'm talking, while our guests are talking, you can type in those questions. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of the window. Feel free to click into that at any point while we're talking and submit those questions. And then when we get to the Q&A at the end, we will be there to answer as many questions as you all have. As much time as we have, we'll be here to answer it. Sometimes we're right up at the end of the hour and have to cut it, but we will try to spend as much time as we can answering any questions that come up today. So for today, for all of you who are currently contractors and in the space, the last few weeks have been exciting, to say the least. And for many of you, it's still not slowing down at all. We've still got some time left before we kind of get through the end of peak season. But today, what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time talking about what peak has looked like this year and some advice on how to handle what we're seeing today. But then we're going to come back and talk about a really crucial program that if you're a contractor or trying to become a contractor, you need to understand how to leverage to stay in FedEx's good graces, and that is the RYDE program. And so we'll go through a little bit more of what that actually means in just a second. But before we go too much farther, I want to go ahead and make sure that I introduce you to Dave and Amy Byers, who are going to be on here to give their perspective as well. So Dave and Amy, why don't you come on, say hello, and again, for people who've never met you before, just give a quick intro on who you all are. Oh, I think you're still.
There we go. There we go.
I'm Dave Byers, FedEx contractor for 18 years. We're in the P&D space as well as line haul and custom critical as well. We have a couple of terminals that are express integrated, so kind of in everything right now.
Yep, I'm Amy Byers. I came on with Dave when we dove into line haul pretty deeply, and we, run operations together. I handle mostly people, payroll, and compliance, also finance and contracting, and then Dave handles, trucks, operations, kind of all that good stuff. Everything that makes everything go.
Yeah, both are important, but you're right.
Both are important. Yes, yes.
So let's start here with peak. So what has it been like for you all? What are you kind of hearing across the country right now around peak volume?
Where do you even start?
Wow.
Okay.
We are busy. We are really busy. It's a good busy. It is
stressful.
It's got goods, it's got bads, it's got everything, but we're managing day to day. A lot of understanding from the management level to kind of work with us and help us, with ICs and just any issues we're having day to day. But we're getting the boxes on the road, we're getting them delivered, and we're making customers happy, and we're making it, we're making it happen. So
we actually we plan heavy every year, obviously, being that we've done this for so many years. We plan to help our neighbors. We plan to help, in contingency situations, potential opportunities for us to jump on as well. So we were staffed really well this year, better than ever, like staffed to where managers wouldn't be in a truck, staffed to where, you know, we had a bulk plan. Everything was, I mean, we were just, you know, even at a profitability sake, we were staffed, and ready to help our neighbors, and then some. And the volume came. And, you know, this is, I've heard many people talk about how, you know, the customers should have forecasted better. And I really do think that this is just kind of a response to a really light economic outlook, obviously, that we've seen in this third quarter, fourth quarter. And I think people are just lightening up a little bit less scared, a little bit more thankful. And it's showing. And I don't think that this is anything, I mean, maybe some, you know, really, you know, deep economic, you know, forecasters could have looked into maybe a situation where our economy bounced back like this prior. But our shippers weren't forecasting, our customer wasn't forecasting. And, you know, and on top of that, the size of the boxes, you know, it's a percentage, but I don't even think that that's something we could have forecasted. We have a max daily number that our customer gives us, and we have been, you know, between 500 and 2,000 stops over that, almost every single day, including Sundays, where we typically run 60% of our fleet. We've been running full fleet. So we are feeling, you know, from the 10 route contract to our, you know, now what was supposed to be a 43 route contract at peak is now a 48 route contract at peak. But we're running, managers running bulk, we're running ICs, we're running overflow. We are rolling some stops. We had some really bad weather here in Ohio a couple of days ago. I think the big thing though, and Dave said we talk to management. And when we say we talk to management, we're not talking to our management. We are, but what he's talking about is the good relationship that we have with each of our terminals, to not just say, you know, screw it and surprise them that there's 50 boxes left on the dock, but to go to them with a plan and say, we're going to take this, or we're going to help you here, but we're strategically leaving this and we will get it tomorrow, or the plan is this. I think there's a ton of forgiveness and communication. And I don't think that anyone, you know, in some office is saying, what do you mean your DRO is off, or your, you know, forecast is off? I mean, DRO is definitely an issue for us right now. I think that's the biggest hiccup, right? Is that, you know, you come in and you think you're planning for one and it's another. So we've kind of switched gears and said, we're planning for the highest possible every single day, regardless. And that's just it. And then we'll use our resources to help, you know, if we come in lighter than expected, we help a neighbor, you know, or help a different terminal. So that's kind of the non-plan plan.
Well, and it's funny, you know, actually the last webinar we did together, we talked a lot about bulk and IC, and that was before we knew that was going to be the theme of this peak season.
Yeah.
So if people have questions on that, that's a good webinar to go back and watch. But two, you touched on it already. You said that you've come up with your own bulk plan for this peak season. That's kind of just had, like, you probably had one before, and now you have one that's kind of adapting with what it looks like now. But can you just give people a little bit of what they could be thinking about and doing to handle that? Because it is the big challenge right now around peak.
Well, you know, in one of our other webinars, we also talked about our strategies to not rent trucks. And due to bulk, we actually have rented trucks. We've rented 4, you know, just standard bulk box trucks right now. But our bulk plan in general has always been one route in every terminal, kind of does a sweep of the north, sweep of the west, sweep of the south, whatever. In one of our larger terminals, we have 4 dedicated bulk trucks now, and each of those are doing 2 to 3 sweeps, going back to the terminal, like 2 tripping. The bulk is just really, it's just really impossible to plan for. You know, you have to do what you can do. And the boxes are just big. But our guys right now, to help offset the costs of that, we had 12 guys on Sunday do over 300 stops, 12 of 28 on a Sunday did over 300 stops. And the only way they're capable of doing that is if you get the big stuff off of their trucks. you know, and you have the conversation. We talk a lot about communication. These guys are just getting absolutely pounded. But they know the infrastructure is there. They know it's not going to last forever, and they know they have our complete support. And when it gets dark and when it gets, you know, a little bit risky, that we'll pull the plug and we'll come back tomorrow. We'll have a conversation with our management, local management, with the customer, and we'll make a plan for it. You know, but I would say the folks that are really hurting today are the people that are we're not planning to cover their peak in the beginning, right? They just weren't staffed up or weren't prepared to start with.
And talk a little bit more about that. I would imagine we're seeing several different terminals that are actually struggling as a whole right now. What are the different ways that they're handling it? You know, what are contingency looking like right now?
Yeah, well, we actually neighbor, we're kind of like sandwich terminal that we do not have routes in. So they pushed one of the zip codes over to us in a different terminal. So we're servicing it out of a different terminal to help with that. And we've been doing some line haul deliveries on our tractor to like the bigger commercial customers that are, you know, that there's large package. So
P&D deliveries on line haul tractors.
They've been using the line haul power to do a lot of the bulk deliveries, which actually, you know, pretty good because it gets the boxes off of the trucks. And they're not our routes, but we're just in there just helping out where we can.
It's the idea this year is definitely you know, to support the brand and to make sure that the volume when we come out of peak is there, right? So to protect any, I mean, you can have that kind of theory in your background of like, oh, they didn't prepare, so why should I help them? And that's their contract. I'm doing good. But if we don't service our customers wholly, it's going to have fallout. Right. So the idea is to pick up the pieces, make sure you're paid and compensated appropriately for that work. And we'll have a conversation about it after the first of the year, as far as what I had to help with and who wasn't, you know, prepared, and we can point fingers and do the blame game next year. But right now we need to get those stops done and protect our volume and protect our contract and our brand. This is something that we've been doing for 18 years, you know, and it's as much our brand as it is theirs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out, is that there are things that need to be corrected, and those shouldn't be things that are forgotten, you know, and that we just kind of kick under the rug. But at the same time, there needs to be a priority around, like, let's do whatever we can, contingency, work with your neighbors, because if we can, you know, successfully deliver this volume, then it sets the standard for next year that, like, we won't lose any customers, can potentially gain more customers you know, when FedEx is going out and competing against UPS and others. And I think it's also an important note for people is, like we said, you shouldn't kick it under the rug. You should also kind of track as much as you can of the data of how much off DRO was and where the inefficiencies were, so that you can have really productive conversations after peak season.
Yeah.
You just come in and yell and say, this is horrible, you broke everything. That's not going to fix anything.
No, definitely. And you know, that's my kind of common thread through everything is the more data, the more information, and the more respectful conversations you can have, you know, the more you'll be able to move the needle.
Yeah.
And you can't hire now, right? It's not like it used to be where we could hire somebody last minute. We're what we have is what we have. To bring somebody in is a 3 to 4 week turnaround. Till they're productive, and
well, there's
by that time we're through it.
There's no time to have any unladen days, right? In the qual cert program, you're not unladen. You're not driving around without packages for 2 days by any means. So anybody we bring on now, which we have brought on a few drivers, but they're in a jumper capacity until January, until we can, you know, break free and make sure that, you know, their class follow-up is complete.
And that's probably a good point to make too. Jumpers to utilize now. College kids are getting out of school, so we'll grab a couple of them, and even though we could manage without them, we put them on. It's a nice relief valve for these drivers that are doing 300 stops a day, because they can get a jumper, even if it's only a day here or a day there. They can bounce around. The jumpers can run around and jump in with these drivers. It gives the drivers a little bit of a break where they're just the driver for the day, and the package runner will run all the packages for them. So that's a good point to make, that you can still kind of get some jumpers through if you needed to and use them.
Yeah, Yeah. And I think it's, for some people, it's just kind of survival mode right now of doing what you can, getting through it. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to build the relationships right now, but any relationships you do have with contractors at your terminal, it's the time where you're going to leverage them. Yeah, because FedEx doesn't have a lot of extra resources to help here either. So
Yes.
I'll take us off of peak season for now, topic wise. But if anyone has specific questions about things they're encountering or wondering about, go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we can come back to that at the end.
Yeah.
So let's pivot and talk a little bit about our other topic for today, the RYDE program. And I guess just to start, for those who've never heard of it, what is this program? Is it spelled RIDE?
So the RYDE program was established, I don't know, few months ago, really, fully and integrated, where we could see results and kind of have an action plan. But there is, outside of the delivery manager, there's really no marketing campaign, right, behind, pushing delivery manager out to customers, asking them for their scores, right? So RYDE is rate your delivery experience, and it is a program where the customers can rate our delivery experience, 1 to 5, and then many questions after that. But the idea is true and fair, right? Every hotel has a Google rating, right, or a customer rating, or Yelp, or whatever. So DoorDash, I mean, every single company has this program. So it's a great program to give us feedback, to correct some things, to recognize the drivers. But there are some things that we as contractors now have to kind of do, right? So you're delivering, now you got lytics cameras, now you got PPOD, and now, picture proof of delivery for anybody that doesn't know what that is. And now I need you to be my sales force. And now I need you to go out and say, hello, Mr. Customer, I need you to, click and do this and do this and do this. And it is also a very negatively based program, right? All feedback. Most people don't take the time to give the good reviews, but they will, in fact, take the time to give you the bad ones. So how do you counteract that when, your guys are busy enough? They're not, they kind of probably got into delivery because they weren't salespeople, right? So there's some career changes going on there. But I think there are ways to get people to do the right program. But I think understanding the importance of it, and understanding, again, we're going to go back to that, protecting the volume and getting more volume, and protecting the brand. This is a necessary evil, if you will, right? It's a necessary part of our growth. Our customer has it right. They got the idea. But there are some things that we can do as contractors to kind of better, what's going on. And I think the first thing is to encourage people to use Delivery Manager. I would start with your customer managers at your local terminals, because they probably live on a route that one of you deliver, and start there. But also, so work together. But encourage your drivers, families, people that to get into the Delivery Manager, to utilize it. We live on our routes, so we tell people all the time, to download the Delivery Manager and to rate the packages. But I think the low hanging fruit, so that your drivers aren't completely overwhelmed with sales, is that when someone tells them thank you, right? Like, here's your box, have a great day. And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. Do you want a snack or a water? Yes. And if you could take a minute and just rate that package, there's this new program. If you could just rate the package, my boss will find out about it. FedEx will find out about it. It'll be great. And that's not a difficult conversation. If you figure 1 or 2 people a day are having more intimate conversations with their customers, right? Like one-on-one, they know them. I mean, we have guys that have been delivering for 12 years to the same route, right? Like, these people know you. Start with them. Don't make it as, uncomfortable. And then I always say, like, come up with a catchy, phrase that you can say, like, hey man, rate my package. Or don't forget to scan, but don't say ride me or anything weird like that.
Yeah.
And They don't know what
A catchy phrase that won't get you in trouble with FedEx.
correct, correct. They don't know what the acronyms mean. So it's, it's a tough conversation. Like, hey, we have this RYDE program. Don't do anything. Don't go out of your way to make it more complicated. Just, if you can go in and track your package, rate me, that'd be great. Rate your delivery experience. My boss will find out. And people typically like to get involved, and especially at the holiday season, they want to do something nice. So that's just from a marketing standpoint. I know it's a lot on everybody's shoulders to take on, the sales force, but
We've seen those results too. We have drivers that you can tell they really push the RYDE on the customers when they see them. They have good experiences, and they say, "Hey, can you go in and rate us?" Because we pull weekly like a summary, and we kind of look at every driver in the fleet, and we see like who's positive, who's negative, where can we help, and we'll see like some people have
6 a week, 7
a week, and
yeah.
Another terminal might not even have 6 a week.
Yeah.
And you have one driver getting 6 to 10 five ratings in a week, and so it's working.
And remember, it's a numbers game. Yeah. Right. So if you have, 1 or 2 people making mistakes, leaving boxes at the mailbox or at the garage, or the package was, left out in the rain or whatever it is, those positive reviews will help your score, and it'll help offset, the 1 or 2 poor scores that you do get.
Yeah. Now, I know that the program's changed a little bit already, and FedEx came out with some additional tools. What is that? How have they helped there? What's that new process?
So it's in Spotlight now. So if you can, when you access your Spotlight under customer, and it's broken out by, Spotlight is now broken out by the different areas: customer experience, safety, etc. So if you go to customer experience, you'll get your results for both picture proof of delivery, which is a great one to take a look at to stay ahead of, because usually that's just one bad habit, or they're moving the camera when they take a picture. They just don't, whatever it is, it's usually a bad habit. It's not that they're just being, terrible people. So super easy, low hanging fruit to fix. But then it'll say rate your delivery experience, and it'll give you by contract. If you have multiple contracts, it'll give you a list of when the delivery was, who the driver was, what the score is, and you can actually filter by driver, by score. So the cool thing is that you have a conversation you're having with somebody about lytics, you can go to RYDE and take a look at what their performance looks like on RYDE and see if there's just kind of a carelessness happening, or if this is truly just safety versus service. So you can really kind of drill down instead of looking through all the data. You can also drill down by number. So Dave grabs the 5s and reports those to me so that I can have some really good conversations with people that are doing great things. And then he sorts by 1s and 2s and takes a look at any patterns that we can identify. But it's great now that it's in Spotlight. It used to be in that program that was there for a hot minute called Siebes. But now it's a super easy way to access, and you should be in Spotlight several times. I know they are working on some things. I asked even today, so I am constantly, giving them better ideas and talking with them. I would love an export function so that I can layer it in my own data. That's not there yet, but so it takes a little bit of time to manually do it. But if you do it, we jump in every day because at the level that we've kind of stepped away, we're able to manage that type of stuff and it's not as overwhelming. You don't have, hundreds of them to go through.
Just really quick for people who haven't, if you're a current contractor and you haven't gotten to Spotlight yet, go do that right now. It's in your apps and your.
We'll do it after.
wait like 30 minutes, but then do it right after that. Yeah, because so it's one of those things that FedEx, it's still harder to find than you would expect in the MyGround portal, but it has some of the best data and dashboards that they've given us in a decade. So if you are a contractor, go find it and use it. Just a general continued reminder on this, because I still encounter people who haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah.
One of the things we found with the Spotlight is if someone gives you a 1, they can leave notes, positive or negative. So if it's a negative, what we see mostly in our negative is I'll sort through them, and if it's like a damaged package, I kind of discard it, right? Like there's some that aren't in our control that still affect us, which they're working to fix that, but behind the scenes, but it's not. So right now we'll kind of filter those out. And then what we do is I'll take it. And if it says misdelivered to the neighbor again, that means there's a trending pattern there. And I'll crisscross it to our ground cloud, and I'll put notes in our ground cloud. And I just did it today. And I put in there, hey, and I'll use Google Earth, and I'll use auditor websites, and I'll crisscross it. I'll find out what the house looks like, and I'll put red house, green shutters, and I'll put the note in there. Or I'll say, let's say, I can't take packages at the garage. It's hard for me to get them to the front door. I'll put, do not leave packages at the garage. Leave them at the front door. And I can add these notes, and it should eliminate these, because they're going to go back and they're going to leave another negative score
if you don't fix it.
if you don't fix it.
Yeah.
So this is a way we can go in, we can fix the problem. The driver sees it, and I don't even have to, to us, it might not be, they didn't do anything wrong by leaving it at a side door. The customer just wants the package at the front door. So I can just go in, do a quick edit. I don't even have to tell the driver that I made a change.
Yeah.
Next time they deliver, and it might not even be that same driver next time, they'll say, oh, I need to go to the front door. There's a note that says front door.
Yeah. And if it is a pattern of a driver, we do send them a picture of the house, send them information, and say like, hey, this particular house is rating you ones regularly, or it's becoming a pattern. Here's the information. And a lot of times they'll say, oh my gosh, that mailbox is between the two houses and I just had it wrong. I'll fix it next time. And then that's eliminated. So now you can't go back and get the 5s for those. But then what I do is I actually call the customers on some of those that are like, again, and you can tell that their frustration is a little heightened even by the words that they use. I call those customers or text them because the phone number is there. And I say, hey, just wanted to let you know, we got your review. We've spoken to the driver. We've put notes in the system. We're sorry about your package. Do me a favor. Next time, we hope we can earn a 5. Right. And that encourages them. Not only does it correct our behavior, but it corrects their behavior of only reviewing us when things go wrong. Right. So it kind of changes the game and makes it more of a partnership between us and even our customer's customer to say like, hey, our delivery guy's out there late. We're super sorry, but, we've talked to him. We've changed some notes. We put notes in the delivery manager. So hopefully we're going to fix this. And next time, we hope we can get you a 5. And typically they're very thankful, surprised that they even got the communication back from anyone that's not in a call center overseas, right? So they're just super excited that they've actually that their feedback was recognized. And I think that's half the battle, because that piece has not been implemented into our program. Whereas like with DoorDash, you get a 1 or a 2, you're getting $5 off your next order, right? Like there's this feed, even with Yelp or a hotel, the customers, you'll get some sort of recognition on Google that'll say like, hey, sorry about your feedback or whatever. But we don't have that yet. So we're kind of going above and beyond to have that conversation with the customer and hopefully mitigate, these negative RYDE scores that are going to bring us down and ultimately hurt your KIs and your metal score.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that you talked about, Dave, is that you'll go in and put the notes on. And I think that's a great call out. And I think, again, like you said, it's not just for the driver. It's also if you have a new person who's on that route, like that's a note that can live there forever. Because one of the angriest reviews you can get is if you have a problem, you fix it, and then like 3 months later, the problem happens again. They're going to be like, oh, you just waited until I forgot about it and then changed on me. So that's a great call out. But I think you mentioned ground cloud. Is there any way to do that in DRO, or do you have to use a third party like ground cloud?
We're just using the third party because it's universal and because it's a 7-day operation, and most drivers in a normal part of the year work 5 days. Someone's backfilling that route 2 to 3 days of the week. So it's a note we can put in that gets to every driver, regardless of who's on that route.
And when we, even when customers do ask to put things in like their actual delivery manager or go to the terminal and ask, it's a process, right? To get it through some of that technology, where our technology is immediate and it goes out and it's actually a call out. It's not just like a screen on the scanner, like a second line that says like suite, whatever, or unit, whatever. It's actually like a call out, right? Where it completely tells us, where the delivery notes are going to be. So,
and I probably did 40 of them today. just in my, in my
Yeah.
office, and I didn't have to like network with anyone. I just kind of worked on it myself, and it was quick, so it didn't take me maybe 2 hours or so to do,
Yeah,
but
and we don't usually like, obviously that's more of our manager level, like a BC level task, but we jump in, obviously it's peak. And there's I don't know if you know, but there's a couple of things going on.
yeah, they're
So,
slammed. So we're
so,
Yeah.
so I've been helping, I've been kind of pulling some weight and doing some lytics coaching and better coaching, and Dave's been kind of handling some of the RYDE and some of the low hanging fruit there, just kind of keeping everything current while the managers are managing, and even running. I mean, we have some running bulk, we have
Yeah.
some running shuttle packages. I mean, it's just so busy right now. But I think that's the hard part, is that sometimes we forget about running a business as an operation when the stops are, it's like put the biggest blazing fire out first. And then you're like, yeah, but I didn't get to coaching videos, or I didn't get to reviewing my RYDE score because I was busy. These are things that will start stacking up on you. And it'll take the wind out of your sails when you're doing 99 delivery and you're killing it in stops. And then you go look and you're like failing on all the other KIs because you were so busy managing to one. So we jump in there and try to help. I would encourage any AOs or BCs to do the same.
The RYDE today, I was working on it, and when you track, there's a tracking number, you click on it and it'll bring you the picture of where you delivered the package to. So now you're in their PPOD, so you're kind of auditing the PPOD based on like the scores of the goods and the bads. And so I click those, I watch, and like we had a couple drivers. I'm like, hey, we need to clean this up a little bit, we need better picture quality, the customer needs to not see a picture of your hand, we need to get pictures of the packages, it needs you're a little bit blurry. So I made those calls this morning too. I'm like, hey, I'm working on RYDE, but kind of piggybacks into PPOD, and we need better picture quality.
We call that a rabbit hole.
So we can just fix it while I'm addressing the RYDE. We'll just fix the PPOD. So they kind of went hand in hand today, which was pretty cool to work on some of that stuff.
The good thing is that you will identify, there's going to be one-offs, right? And there's some where they don't, like Dave said, there's some like box was not temperature controlled. Well, I can't, I'm not the ice pack inside, right? It's snowing here. I did my best. So those I actually email. There's not a formal dispute process yet for some of those. And I know that our customer is working on a better filter program. So if someone says like, that it was the wrong package or the wrong size shoe. We actually got one the other day that said like it was the wrong size Nikes, right? Like not my guy's problem. Like, I'm sorry but that one is going to count against us. So we pull those out and I send those to SPS, which is our kind of our service provider specialist. For anybody that doesn't know, they're the old BDS. They're our kind of go-between. I send it to them. I send it to the terminal manager, and I also send it to the RYDE department. So the folks that are actually in charge of this department that we met at Expo, I copy them and I say like, hey, I'm having a problem. Like I had a problem getting into RYDE, and it was some caching, technical issues. But so when you jump in, I do forward those. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm not tolerating a 3.89. We should be at a 4.12, based on my calculation. So when I go to those meetings, I have those with me and say like, these shouldn't have counted. And they will course correct. They'll help you, and understand that you're in it. That's all they want to know, is that you're not just whatevering. So I think that's the big thing. But I do believe that when you see these offenders, again, I don't think it's the drivers that are just like, screw you, I don't want to do this, I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to hurt your contract, right? It's just bad habits. So this really helps you drill down, retrain, have a conversation. And typically, I always say, if it's somebody that is truly lazy or not doing a good job, they're probably failing in other areas as well, or there's something else going on. So there's a bigger conversation to have. So it's just another touch point to say, your lytic score started flagging, you're getting some PPOD issues, the RYDE scores aren't looking great, like what's going on? And you can really kind of have that conversation. And then all of a sudden, that, they're something happened in their personal life, or they're just not feeling it, or they're tired, or whatever that looks like. But it gives you an opportunity to have a conversation. But I'm not going to ignore that it is one more thing for us to manage.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's like a lot of the things that we've asked for over the years. We want more data. We want more visibility into how FedEx
Yeah.
is judging us and the things that they care about. And they are giving us more of that. The spotlight is helping a lot. That dashboard is. But anytime anything rolls out at this scale with this amount of magnitude on the contractor, it's never perfect when it comes out. And there's always going to be problems. And so exactly like what you're saying, a lot of what the best way forward is that you try to comply with what they're saying and take really good data and really good notes on what's not working or what shouldn't be working. And then you try to have really productive data backed conversations, exactly like what you're saying. Because that's the only way that those complaints are heard.
Yep.
If you come out and you're just yelling at a terminal manager and saying, this is BS, there's no way that they should be able to do this. I'm not your employee. You can't tell me like that. That's not the way to handle these rollouts. They've decided that they're important for the company. It's more about what can we understand and communicate to FedEx that needs to improve. And we've seen a lot of these things that have rolled out the last couple of years have steadily improved as they've listened to contractors. So I would expect the same here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in general, I think what's your thought? Do you think these are going away anytime soon, or do you think this is a program that's here to
No, I think they're going to streamline it. Don't you think they'll?
I think it's good. I absolutely love it. It's another way to manage our business to the fullest and to see what's happening on the road without us actually being on the road.
Yeah, it's kind of like package audit. We used to
like
do ride-alongs and audits. So
it's like a vetter. We pop in, we do uniform checks in our vetters, and we do a lot with that. This is just like another piece,
tool
to reference to help us.
And at the end of the day, like I said, we've been doing this for a long time, and it's important that we protect our market share. So marketing is going to be a piece of that. Do I think that my guys should be the new Salesforce? No, but we are the face of the company, right? And we need to be professional. We need to get that feedback from the people that love us. And hopefully there's more. And I do believe that if my guy does 150 stops, I believe that there are more people that love them than hate them, right? So if we can just capture more of those positive feedbacks, ride scores are a numbers game, man. The more reviews we get, and the more positive reviews you get, right? It is simple numerator, denominator type math. So, it's a numbers game that you have to play. But I do believe that we have, that our employees, Dave and our employees are doing the best that they can. I feel like they're fostering relationships. I feel like they're servicing the customer. I just need those positive voices to show up more than the lady that thinks I knocked over her planter. Right. That's it. So in conclusion, I think that that's just where you need to focus. And that's something that, we're seeing more ride scores now, but we're also seeing double the volume. So you should see more ride scores now. And people are in, like I said, people are in the holiday spirit. So take advantage of the fact that they'll go above and beyond to say thank you.
Yeah. I know the only time I ever review anybody is if, again, like you said, it's a really horrible situation and it has to be really bad for me to write a review that's angry. Or they ask me. If they ask me to, and it's like somebody I had a personal connection with, I probably will write a review for them. So it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and I give good reviews. So like if you use like a Shipt or an Instacart or a DoorDash, they actually will not let you use the service again until you rate the service. So that's one of the things that I did bring up is, and when it's a 5, let it be a 5, right? Don't take them down a 25 question, just give me the 5 and let me walk away. Yeah. If it's less than a 3, then ask me a bunch of questions, and give me an opportunity to, to do that. But if you go to DoorDash or any of those and you enter, you place an order, it'll come up and it'll just say like, hey, you forgot to rate this. You forgot to rate this. Like that should be something that on their side, that is encouraging people to do the right thing and rate those positive experiences.
So the easiest way to suggest to a driver to tell the customer how to rate them, because that's probably a big question. How do you tell someone in 10 seconds how to rate you? Like it's a quick conversation that happens when you interact with customers, would be just to track the package, and you can rate it right from the tracking. If they're a regular customer, they can download Delivery Manager, which is great because it'll tell them when their packages are coming. it'll give them a spot to really go in. But if it's a one-off customer, they can just track the package and leave a rating right there.
Track the package and give me a 5.
Yeah, track the package, give me a 5, and move on. You know, that way you don't have to
Suggestive marketing.
you don't have to explain what delivery manager is and how it
Yeah.
works and put your info in. It's just track the package and leave the feedback.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think that about covers RYDE and what we wanted to talk about there. We will open it up for Q&A in just a second. I want to quickly go over a couple new listings this week. But as I'm talking here, if you haven't already typed in your question, this is your good opportunity to type it in before I get to the Q&A in just a second. So 3 new listings this week. The first is a small set of routes out of Pennsylvania that's operating very profitably. So it's got it's 5 P&D routes at 665,000, and it's got 5 employees and a manager, and it's a really low mileage territory out in Pennsylvania. So if you're looking for something on the smaller end that still has a manager and can still be successful, that's a good new one. Next one's a larger business. It's 17 P&D routes out of Georgia. This is at 1.3 million. This has 18 employees and 2 managers, and a newer fleet, 2 full-time managers. So 2 good ones on the P&D side, 1 out of Pennsylvania, 1 out of Georgia. The last one is a line haul business. It's 8 line haul runs at 3.3 million. This one has 18 employees, a manager. This is 2 dedicated teams and 6 unassigned teams. And it's run out of a couple of different terminals. So it's in Georgia. And if you have questions on that or either of the P&D listings that I just mentioned, we just put a link in the chat that you can go to and get all the details. Reach out to us. We'll give you all the financials and help you make that decision if any of those are interesting for you. And from an events perspective, we do have a lot of our events up for next year already. So if you're trying to start to plan ahead where you might want to see us next year, we've got a few different road shows and happy hours across the country. And our expo will be not in Dallas. So you can see where we'll be next year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get a little bit farther in the year. But for right now, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. So first one should be a relatively easy one here. So from Ben, can you access the Spotlight as a BC or is this AO only?
Right now it's AO only. They're working to get the BC level, but just like My Ground Biz, they have to be able to cut off some of the perimeters because some of it has a lot of financials in there, and they want to be able to pick and choose what us as AOs can delegate to the BCs, but it is coming. It just the timeline's not.
And not just revenue numbers to the gentleman that asked that question, but like bank account information, right? So there's reasons why we don't give, AO access to everybody. But there is a way to get that data out of there. We share reports and let the managers manage. You can do screenshots right now. Again, I specifically today asked for an export feature so that I could export it and then send that Excel spreadsheet to my managers to work off of that rather than have to poke around in Spotlight.
Okay, gotcha. And I think, it's definitely one of those things where Spotlight is really useful data, really useful information. There are very good reasons why it's AO only, but the more that we get ability to spread that to different parts of the organization with as much control as you can, then the more the organization will prosper. Next one's from Tim. So do you guys have any 6-day terminals right now?
Yep.
Okay. Are you seeing any of first off, are they still running with 6-day during peak?
Yeah.
Okay,
That'll be good at 7.
Yeah. So that was going to be my answer, is that in our 6-day terminals, we do open up from the 23rd was our first Saturday running through the week of Christmas. And usually they'll tell us like, if we tell our guys through the first week of January, but they'll let us know, whether or not there's enough volume or else they're going to keep it. If we have to run that Sunday after Christmas. But yeah, so we're all 7, everybody moves it. So yes, in fact, we do see quite a bit of volume on Sundays and we've been hitting, in our 2 big terminals, we've been hitting over our daily threshold, on Sundays also, which is bananas.
Yeah.
It's just, we're also helping, but there's a lot, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stops.
You would ever be over your daily threshold on a Sunday. That alone is crazy.
Correct.
A question I had too, how have you seen, so we talked about how the bulk packages and ICs this year have been heavy. Have you felt that Express has been difficult this year in the terminal that you have Express?
No,
No.
it's been good.
Pretty steady.
Express has been good. We haven't even really talked about it. Just,
Yeah.
just the ICs have really taken every conversation at every level, at every terminal. And the Express is just, we wait a little bit longer for the freight to get there, but we're managing it well. But we also knew coming in that the plane was going to be late every day. So we kind of planned for that with our volume and our staffing. So that,
Yeah.
I think us coming in
Yeah.
with an extra driver or two, just knowing the later dispatch,
We did
kind of
have
helps.
we did have a couple of days where the bulk truck and a couple of our really dense heavy routes in that express terminal, the plane was late and we just cut them, and we kind of called an audible on the dock that morning, and our manager was like, I'm gonna shuttle these boxes out to you when they finally come down, and I'll shuttle the rest of the bulk out as well. I'll do a 2-trip and bring the bulk out to the bulk guy. But that was a managerial conversation that affected 2 routes, and they basically were like, oh, we're not waiting, because you don't really know what's going to show up. They could wait 45 minutes for one box.
You could have 11 trucks hold for 2 packages.
Yeah.
So you're better to let those guys go out and pound the pavement.
So there's some, there's some flexibility that's required in the express terminal, but it wasn't like a upset the apple cart kind of day. It was just we're gonna pivot real quick and call an audible, and we'll get a plan. We call it plan D, because there's always plan A, which is plan A is at night. Plan A is at night when Dro is rolling. Plan B is the one that you come into. Plan C is the first gears change, and then plan D is the one that you typically end up running.
Yeah, and I think that's really good to hear, because I think there was lots of worry that Express, which is a new wrinkle to the logistics and stops, that was going to make peak even more difficult. But I think it's good to hear that if you've got your system for Express, yes, there's going to be a little bit more flexibility you'll need during peak season, but having the right plan and just having a couple of plans is the main way to handle it.
Yeah.
Okay, next one here is from Daniel. So he's asking about our acquisition strategy package. So for those who don't know, that we have a consulting package. Sometimes we call it acquisition strategy, acquisition support, white glove. It all means the same thing. But the idea of that program is, if you are looking at getting into this space for the first time, we'll help guide you from beginning to end of the acquisition. So help you understand what the space is. You'll have a dedicated consultant that walks you through the process, helps you get set up as a business, helps you find the right listing in the FedEx space, evaluate it, pay the right price for that business, and then walk you through the interview with FedEx, all the vendors, and get you all the way up to closing, where you'll successfully stand up. And we created that program as basically here are all of the things that we wish we knew before we got into the FedEx space, so that when you come into it, you can avoid a lot of the mistakes we made the first time we got in. And so that's what that's designed as. But Daniel's question is, can you keep using the consultant after the acquisition? So yes and no. So on the yes end, you've obviously worked with this consultant for a while, as longer than a year even. So you'll have a relationship. So they're not going to delete your number and delete your email address and stop helping you as soon as you acquire a business. But some of those, like the weekly calls and support that the consultant does, most of the time ends pretty close to acquisition or right after. There are some of the resources you'll still have a hold of after acquisition. We do have a different program once you're already in the space and you want to kind of focus on the operations. That's not what those consultants specialize in. Instead, for those types of program, we call it Mastermind. And so Amy and Dave, if you're on the P&D side, is who you would work with. Sorry, Masterclass. Mastermind's an old thing. Masterclass. And so you partner with Amy and Dave. We've got videos and content, but also just kind of weekly touch points with current operators, so that you can work through these problems as you encounter them and have somebody to call that is actively working on the business at all different levels. You would much rather talk to them if a truck breaks down, if you have a hiring or onboarding problem, than you would calling your consultant. So that's what that program is designed to do. So if you have questions on that side of things, you can always reach out to us. We can give you a lot more details than that, but just know it's basically a acquisition line of helping you stand up. And then we have an operational side of the business that have 2 different goals, but we do have options for both of those. Next one here is it's somebody basically saying it's the first time coming to one of these. So welcome. Just now learning about FedEx routes. So we aren't going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but just to answer at kind of a high level, what are typical salaries ranges you see for managers and drivers? And I know managers can vary wildly depending on what kind of manager they are. But if you're talking like a basic BC, not a general manager, where have you seen those pay ranges kind of land in different parts of the country? It's going to vary widely, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I was going to say, this is probably an answer to the most variable question. Next to what is your net, your net take and all those good things. So for us, I think that we've seen, even from a competitive standpoint, you're anywhere from $1,000 to $1,800 a week. And those are usually salaried. Our positions are salaried because our managers are mostly not drivers. So that falls in more of a management SIC code, or your your BWC code rather. So those are more administrative, but they're kind of warehouse salespeople. I think they actually have the code for, which is they're in the danger zone of being on the dock, they're loading, they're being around, conveyors and things like that. But that's usually a salaried position. With bonuses, and that's fine. The driver range can, we have part-time drivers, we have part-time, we do part-time differently. We do part-time a couple of days a week, and then we have some part-time drivers that are like 6 hours a day type, right? But 5 days a week. So there's all kinds of part-time, but from a full-time driver, you're probably looking anywhere from 700 to 1,100 a week. And those are typically in Ohio. Those are all going to be hourly, unless they're in all big trucks. Then you can do a flat rate or piecemeal or combination or whatever else your state labor allows you to pay. But I think that's probably a good range, I would say.
Yeah, and Cecil, if you have one of the things that we do, so like if you're looking at any of these businesses, or if you're in a specific part of the country that you want to know about, if you reach out to us, we can tell you, here's what the average ranges are in your part of the country for managers and drivers, because like we were kind of hinting at, there is a very wide range.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't necessarily realize it if you aren't in the space, but there is a big gap between a bad driver and a good driver in terms of skills and efficiency and what they can do for your business. So there can be a wide gap between what you see on low and high ends of the pay range and at different parts of the country. So I know it feels like a cop out for us to say it depends, but what I'd say is if you reach out to us and you have a very specific part of the country you're asking about, we can give you those details.
Well, and to add on to that from a BC standpoint, if you're looking at getting in the space and you're wanting to be active, then your BCs are not going to have nearly as many job duties to do. If you're looking to be more of an investor or, kind of a little bit hands off, then, that BC is going to be worth a little bit more because you're going to be relying on them much more. So it depends.
Yeah. And I think there's a second part of your question, Cecil, that I'll jump in on. You basically say, with a hired manager, what amount of revenue for a route would I need to have a stable annual return around 10%? So first off, when we think about the size to have a manager, we typically say around 8 routes is the first time where you can justify a manager. You can do it before. It's just the earlier you do it in that kind of ramp up range, the more it's going to hit your bottom line. So there's some people who do it at smaller operations, and it's a choice where they're willing to give up an OI to have somebody to help with the management. And you can make those choices, but typically that, the kind of that 8 to 10 range, you should have a manager in place for that size operation. Now, when you're talking about having a return around 10% in the pickup and delivery space, so there's two sides of the FedEx equation: pickup and delivery and line haul, which are the large tractor trailers moving freight between terminals. But for the pickup and delivery side, we typically see the average business is doing around 10 to 20% NOI, and that's EBITDA when we're looking at valuations. You may see some that are doing a little bit better and some that are doing a little bit worse, but that 10 to 20%, you'll see a lot of these businesses that can do 10% with a manager. So I would tell you that it's going to come down. It depends. There's all kinds of the ways these businesses work, but most businesses that have a manager are doing 10% or more. Again, it just is going to depend on the size of your business and where your expenses are trending in a few different areas. The nice thing about the FedEx space is that you don't do anything on the revenue side. FedEx will build a model that is not always perfect, but it's intended to provide revenue that will allow you to have a comfortable margin if you are running your business properly. It's the way they try to design the contract. So no matter where you are in the country, no matter what your territory looks like, FedEx is trying to account for the expenses it takes to operate that territory and give you revenue that will allow you to operate it with a certain margin. We don't know the exact margin that they are building into that. It's a little bit of a black box, but like I said, we typically see between that 10 and 20% on the P&D side. So it's probably somewhere that FedEx is shooting for in there, but that is the way that the contract is built to give you that wherever you are in the country. And again, there are lots of nuances and things that you can ask on that we can keep going from there, but we're in the last 2-3 minutes of a webinar. So Cecil, I would say a couple of things. One, you can come next week. Well, yeah, next week's going to be online hall. But if you have questions about the other side of the equation, that's a fun place to go. But if you also go to our YouTube or routeconsultant.com, there are tons of videos you can watch. You can spend all of Christmas break watching about this space if you'd like to. But I'm happy to answer any more questions you have the next time, or if you reach out to us directly. And there is a contact button in the chat if you didn't see it. So the last question here from Tim, you mentioned that you're getting trucks, that you use certain types of trucks for bulk. What do those trucks look like?
Today, all of them, any of them.
So our bulk, the bulk truck that we use, what we've switched to, we've used everything. We've used cargo vans, we've used Pro Masters, we've
Straight trucks.
We've used straight trucks, we've used it all. Right now, this year, what we're using, we have a P700. We can load it down. We can send it out. He's usually making 2 trips a day, but in the 700, he can go out into the country, deliver those packages safely, emphasis on safely, instead of us sending a P1000 out there. And he can be efficient. And then when he's done with his bulk, he can go help these guys that are slammed, and it's dark now at 5:30. It's dark as could be. So he's probably done with bulk, and he's probably met up with someone, loaded his shelf so he can stay organized, and he can go out and deliver and have plenty of space to work. Or if we need him to go do a pickup, he can go to the pickup, and he has the capacity to really pack that truck to bring it back. So it leaves him well-rounded to be able to go and kind of do whatever we need him to do, but without putting him in a P1000, which we found that P1000s are a little less safe in the country. And they don't make P500s anymore. So that's not an option for us to run for the business. And we didn't want to use a cutaway because they don't really match up to docks. When you have businesses and docks.
P1000s are just too big for the country.
That's right. Yeah, that was
yeah.
Yep. So the P1000s
and P1200 right now as a bulk truck or a straight truck would be perfect, but bulk is everywhere, right? So that one stop in the middle of nowhere has a bulk stop. It has to get out there, and you can't risk your entire day or cost of a tow on a 1200 getting stuck in a gravel driveway or
Now we are running bulk, a different kind of bulk
shuttles
in our straight truck. So our straight truck will go do our bigger business. It's all businesses, and he's just running kind of all over the place, but he's taking the big volume shippers and delivering those as bulk as well.
He also, in that straight truck, we also will, on days where our 300 guys are doing 350, they'll actually keep like their 1s and their 2s. Their 1000s and their 2000, which is a section in their routing plan. They'll keep those boxes kind of separate, and then we'll shuttle them back out to them when their truck is half empty, so that they still have that clear walk path through the truck. And they're not so overwhelmed digging through 400 boxes or 400 stops and probably 600 boxes.
But it's very strategic. We make sure we pull the streets that have mailboxes or no driveways, like they're residential streets. You can park on the street, walk to the house, good house numbers, like visible at night, easy to deliver in the evening houses. So those get kind of quarantined, you could say, put onto the straight truck, and then the straight truck will meet those guys kind of like a satellite and disperse their 4 or 5 routes.
Yeah, around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep,
they'll meet up with them. So those are a couple different uses, but I will tell you, I joked in the beginning, and today We have NV200s, which are our manager trucks that are taking a stop out to the weirdest location in the middle of nowhere because it needs to get done and it's been sitting on the dock for a couple days. So literally, when I say today, it's any truck, but the truck of choice is definitely, it would have been a P500, but P700 is working really good. And the drivers are experienced enough to handle it. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it's lots of different strategies there and where you landed this time. But thank you guys for being here. I think that's the end of our questions and the end of our time. So thanks so much for being here and answering questions, guys, and providing your insight. And thanks everybody who was on today. And for both Dave and Amy and for everyone on, we will see you next time. And thanks for coming.
Thanks
See
so
ya.
much. Bye, guys.